Hi, thanks for joining me today. There is something important that you should know now in dealing with your stepchildren that'll be better for them and you later. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and I'll let you know every time I post. This week's session is a slightly tricky one because it's thinking very long term. And what I want to talk to you about is be careful of what you label a child, because often a child will carry that label through to being a grown-up, and it can really impact their lives and your relationship. And what I'm talking about is that it's very easy to label a child by a descriptive word, which they then take to heart. Things like lazy, slow, messy, and other things too, such as so-and-so doesn't like change or doesn't get on well with people, can't make friends. Any of those kind of sort of umbrella descriptive terms that we can use to sort of shortcut how we describe our stepchildren can really affect a child later in life. It's a bit like giving a child a t-shirt which says something like, "Here comes trouble." It's about putting onto the child something that they really take on board, but you had not really thought that that would have a negative consequence. And the thing about this is that as a step-parent, and parents, don't get me wrong, do this just as much, but as a step-parent, there's a real danger that you could damage your relationship with the child and also have an impact on the child because you're not a parent, so you can be much more objective and possibly more critical, easier, because you can see it. You're not emotionally attached in the same way as a parent, so you can see the child is whatever the word is that you're using to describe them. And a long time later, the child can still think this is true of them. Take the, for example, innocent phrase, "Oh, so-and-so doesn't like change." Well, if they know that an adult thinks that they don't like change, change then becomes something that they become more aware of. And then when they do make changes, they think they're not good at it. And then changes become a problem. And then later in life, you find that they really avoid change or become very unsettled or worried about change. And all this kind of thing can really go against you. And it's particularly true of stepchildren because often stepchildren have had a disruption in their childhood upbringing, which can make them more susceptible to being told stuff and not quite being able to evaluate what the real meaning of that is, how relevant it is, whether it's true or not. And so it can be a bigger danger later on because they can take as true something that you had said in passing or you had thought at the time but didn't think much of or more of later. The kinds of things I'm thinking of too are sort of giving the child anxieties that they don't need. So commenting that the child doesn't like certain foods, or always falls ill, or is susceptible to headaches, or gets bad stomach aches whenever they're having to do something that's a little bit difficult. It's a combination of giving the child the idea that they can't handle something particularly well, but also giving them permission to sort of say, well, yes, I've got a stomach ache. I really don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do it, because when I get a stomach ache, I know I'm scared of something, and I'm looking around to see what I'm scared of, and so therefore I'm not going to go and do whatever it is they had planned to do, because they've got a stomach ache and now they don't want to go or do something. It's kind of like a chain reaction, which can prevent the child from growing up, or can make the child develop anxieties where anxieties don't need to have been there. And then if that happens, when the child does grow up, you'll find that actually they will state these things back to you as fact. You know, I'm never good in new situations because it gives me a stomach ache, and that is proof that I'm no good at making presentations or doing difficult stuff at work or meeting new people or whatever it happens to be. And when they're a grown-up, it's much more difficult to counter it, because they won't stand for it. They'll say, no. It's a fact. It's been a fact all my life that I find this difficult. And I'm just telling you now, because as a step parent, number one, we're in a particular position where we can be objective and critical without really meaning to or knowing that we're doing it. And we can be creating or building up a problem through labeling a child as something, and therefore creating this thing for them when they become adults, which they then can't get rid of. And that can really impact their lives, and sometimes your relationship with them too, especially if they think, well, you always thought I was no good at such and such. It can really affect your relationship. So today, I am just telling you about something to think about, not for now, although it is about taking different behaviour now by not labelling children, but realising that by labelling children, you could be creating problems for yourself and the child later on. And parents do this too. But as a step parent, it can be particularly prevalent because the child has transitioned through quite a lot of change before you've become a step parent, and they can be not so sure of themselves, so really rely on what other people think of them to develop their sense of self. So then when they grow up, it all backfires on you. And secondly, that to make you think carefully about what you voice about your stepchild, and to think about what you say before you say it, about any labels you give your child. And therefore, conversely, you can think about positive labels you can call your child, and don't say the negative ones. So instead, filter through what you're thinking, think about what the positive of a lazy child is, and say that instead. So he or she always thinks through carefully what they're going to do before they do it. It makes them look slow at times, but there's good reason for that, and they're always very thoughtful. Much better for your stepchild to come away thinking that you think that they are thoughtful than that you think they are lazy. It's a thought. But think about it now, because later it's very difficult to change. We run workshops, sessions, an email response service, and we write booklets. Look at the description box below for links to our social media and website.